So first thing I want to do is start off with the release notification that you guys get. So I see Rosie wonderfully sent out release 030 last week. So it comes through in the form of an email, of course, but also in the Slack channel. So I'm sharing my screen here and I'm showing that message that comes in the Slack channel. So if you see at the very bottom here where it says Rosie, she sent the message into Design Systems channel. So you can see first thing is the release number. It's 030. And we list out what's new in this library. There's a link to new components. And the important thing here is that it says, please expand the following frame. So you got to expand that to see it's the email template is attached to this Slack channel message. Now the email template itself gives some more details. First, you can see, screenshots of the pattern library. This is just to give you a visual reference of what it would look like inside Figma, the libraries. You can see the components that are listed for this release and any updates that have been made. So as well as additions, we have modifications, bug fixes, any updates to existing componentry that have previously been released. And if you click on Explore in Figma, it'll open that file in Figma for you. Then we highlight some interesting release for this current release. In this case, Rosie wanted to highlight the flexible components, and I will walk through that as well today on a call. You have a link to the release notes. So we're all using Confluence now. The release notes will take you right into the notes from our sprints, because we work in sprints. And you can see more details for each release, each note update. You can see all the commentary, any information, descriptions around that release. It's all there. So that's the release notes in Confluence. This is a Design System Clinic, the first one back on track. So you see here for every week, the Design System team will host a 30-minute clinic. This is the first one, providing quick tips and tricks, QA session. So this will be a reminder every time we have a release of these sessions. And feedback, when you have any issues, any questions you want to present to the team, especially any bug fixes or any additions that you feel need to be or could be added to future sprints, you can create a Jira ticket. It's very simply just hit right in the Slack message here, just /Jira, create as it's described there. When you hit enter, it'll actually create a little modal window for you to create your ticket. Contact us on Slack, of course, is our Slack channel here, Design Systems Slack channel, and visit Confluence page. We'll take you to that page that I showed you with the release notes, but also with more description of the design system and the releases. So it's important to know that these links are in here in this release every month. So there should be no confusion how to get feedback or how to look at what's being released. Also to see what new features are being highlighted and how to explore the Figma files themselves. So that's the release we have every month, and it's a nice presentation as well. We have our little branding for the design system team too, which is helpful. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through a new document. So I'm imagining I'm a designer like yourselves on this call, and I have a brand new document. And I want to kind of understand how I interact with the design system itself. Before I jump into this, any questions on the release notes? Any confusion on there? Yes, so I'm a designer. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure I have access to the libraries. So within the desktop pattern UI kit, there's a full page in there and describes how to connect to the libraries. So this is what it would suggest that you open your within the assets panel. You have this little library icon here. These are your libraries, team library. And within here, you have your the Bay design system. That's the TBDS. That's what it stands for. You have your components. You have your tokens. Your tokens are your colors and your type styles. And you also have icons. So what I want to do is I want to switch on all of these three in my design system library project. So switch these on, you will have access to them. If I turn them off here, you'll see they disappear from the left-hand side in the assets panel. I'll switch them on. The icons, components, tokens. Okay, so now I'm kind of, what I've done is I have a brand new document. I've just named it release 03 test. It's just a brand new design file. And in my assets panel now, I can see I have the tokens, I have the components, and have the icons available to me. So if I kind of drill inside there, the Bay design system components, I see some listed, and then I see there's kind of a lock icon here, and there's listings for some that are coming soon. So that's kind of self-explanatory. There's some on the way. So let's look in here under accordion. You know, you can obviously drag and drop. There are descriptions for each of these as well. It'll pop over tooltip, breadcrumb. And in some instances where we have, perfect example here is the breadcrumb itself. It's not very useful in itself, this component, because you'd have to break it to make something of it. So we include this link that says explore UI patterns. This is very useful. You'll see this kind of icon appear in some other categories as well. You see there's one down here in dialogues and modals. So what this does, if I drag this into my page, it's a way for us to get you to the UI pattern libraries. So in this case, it's the UI pattern library for the breadcrumb. If I click on this guy here, it takes me right into the breadcrumb. And here I have so far more information, how to use the breadcrumb. And you can see here, of course, there's a title for the breadcrumb, and the breadcrumb auto layout component is right here. And in this box, it says copy and paste to use. The reason we copy and paste is because this is an auto layout object. And I'll show you how that works. It's quite useful. There also is a tutorial, video tutorial. You can see here, this link, tutorial available. I open that link. It'll actually give me a description of how to use this, the same description I'm going to show you now. So this is saying this is an auto layout frame that scales, allows you to add, remove tabs, copy and paste into your project. So I'll do that. I'll copy it, paste it into my project. So you can just see how more useful that is to the original component. So this auto layout frame is composed of this component here. But the beauty of the fact that it's an auto layout, if I turn on the layers panel, you'll see how the structure of it looks. As an auto layout frame, I can duplicate any of these objects. And with the functionality here on the right-hand side in the properties panel, I can switch on and off different attributes of this component to make it work in this breadcrumb. So in this case, I've duplicated active where. I can change the name of these. Say baby, something else. Just making up words here. So imagine these are categories. So you can see the divider lines missing. Simply just easily add those in. Separator in here. The separator's added. And you probably don't need a separator on the last one. So you can see now it's very easy to create your breadcrumb because this is not a layout frame. That's the beauty of auto layout frames. You have the ability to add, to hide, to remove. And when you remove an object, of course, it collapses as well. Okay, so still walking through my document. What else can I do in here? This is my test document. See, I can put in some, drop in some navigation systems, notification bars, numeric inputs. And in all of these, you have functions on the right-hand side, of course, like numeric input. Of course, everything is editable. That's a label. And you can, within here, you have the input field. There's hover states and focus states. You have the ability to disable certain sides of, if there's no more, you can't cycle up anymore. There's no, there's no 5, 4, 6, for example. You can disable the right-hand side. So definitely keep an eye out for all of the functionality in the right-hand panel for each of these components. Like you see here with the notification bar, you have the different flavors. The warning error success, and then of course you can remove the icon. In some cases you don't have the icon or that control, the close control. We have this, so Rosie mentioned the concept of slots. Slots is an interesting concept. So I want to demonstrate what that looks like in the carousel. If I look at the carousel component here. So see if you drop this out onto your project, there's some information within the actual component itself. So what does it say here? It says swap this instance, slide 1. Make each slide of your carousel with content a local component. Resize this frame to match the size of your content. Swap this placeholder in the right panel. So yeah, so this component, what it's saying here is the component is set up agnostic, right? So there's no content in here because we don't know what content you're going to put in here. But the beauty of this swapping instance idea is that this blue box is a component itself. So if I was to create, I need to add images in here, for example. I could bring up, actually, this is very clever. I want to bring an image into this project here. And I see there actually is this new feature in Figma. I just learned it this week. You see this icon up here, resources, and you have components, plugins, and widgets. There is, so I want an image. I can type in the word image here, but I know Unsplash is one of those plugins that will allow me to do that. So I can run this. Of course, in a real project, I won't be doing this. I'll be using images from the content team at the Bay. Actually, it must be blocked. That's good. Maybe that's a good thing. So if we can open, I can open an image from my desktop. Sure, I have a Bay image here somewhere. You know what? I can just get one. Let's go to the Bay itself. Say this one here. Okay, I'll do a screenshot here. Control Shift Command 4. This is a capture screenshot to the clipboard, if you didn't know that. Okay, so this is my image, say, and saying to resize my panel to match my image size. So resize this guy here. So the thing is, I'm going to create a local component, as it says here in the description. So what is the size of this? It's 413. I'll write it down here. It's 413 by 275. Right, that's the size of my image for my carousel. So I can create a component of this carousel image, and locally, I'm going to save it locally. So I'll rename it. I'll just call it carousel imagery, maybe. Just going to create a local component. So now when I go into I've created my local component, right? This is, I'm working on this project. I've pulled the carousel component from the library. It says swap the instance slide 1. Okay, so select this. I can see now in my panel on the right-hand side, there is in the attributes for this actual component I see, there's the number of actual images that could be in this carousel. You can see this content switcher at the bottom. I've switched to 4. There's a maximum of 5. Let's set it to 2, and I can change the position of the dots, whether inside or outside the component itself. And this side, I want them outside. And also the arrow buttons, I can hide them or reveal them. So here's the important one where it says slide. And also in here, it says replace this instance. So you can see the minute I click on that, it looks locally first. So you can see the carousel imagery folder I just created. It's right there. So now I can select image 1. Okay, and I can now resize my panel to fit the image itself. And so you can follow the same format for all of the images that you have to add to the carousel. And you can obviously add more images, and you can even set up a prototype where you can actually make these arrows live, and you can scroll between the images. And that's something we want to set up in a next release. But for now, at least you can see how you can use the carousel. So that's the slot component concept. I want to show you the auto layout concept as well. It's very useful. If I go back in here. So again, say I want the dialog boxes. That's a good example. So inside a dialog box, if I go in here into my assets panel, dialog modals, 1 second. So you can see it's not useful in itself to have, like, these components are part of the dialog. So you have the header, and you have this like overlay that appears behind objects, right? When you're, it'll appear behind content. It'll allow the modal to appear above content below it. It's just that ghosting shadow you see on all websites when a modal pops up on screen. But what we're saying here is these are the building blocks for the modal component, the dialog itself. But we also have that component here that I flagged earlier. And if I mouse over, it says, visit our library, our pattern library, from where you can copy and paste common patterns into your project. Okay, so look at that. This is a little kind of a gateway into the pattern libraries. Again, I click on this. I can open the library. So it's a pattern library for dialogues. I pulled it out of the dialogues folder here. So I go in here, open this file. I want to explore what patterns are being presented to me. Okay, so now again, more details, more information about the modals. And I can see this panel here, it's building blocks on top of the overlay. So you can see that overlay in the background, that dark gray. But the interesting thing is here, the modal has its header, as I showed on the previous example, but you have these building blocks on the right-hand side. So you have, say, brand, right? So if I want to put the brand, excuse me, the brand into this modal, it needs to start with the brand. I can just drag and drop right into, see that blue line that appears? So these are auto layout components. So it'll drop it right into that space. Of course, you can remove these as well. So you want to remove the any of these guys here, and you can add in. So there's a content block. So these are some of the blocks that we've added in this edition. Of course, when you're building out your dialog boxes, I'm sure there's many different other configurations that you'll discover, but you can share those back into the design system team so we can add them in here. These are just some common ones that we've discovered on our journey. You can add content in here. And we use this tool plugin called, as far as I remember, it's called Spacing. Just type it in here. A quick way, of course, to use your plugins is a Command / or Command P, and it brings up this dialog, and you can use spacing. You can also access it through this new icon in the top left under resources. You click on that, you can type the word spacing as well. And you'll see it'll actually look for, we have spacing components in the design system as well. But in this case, I want to look at plugins, click on the plugins tab. And you will see that there is your recents that were used, plugins from the community. But in this case, I want to look for my own, what I've used myself. So Spacing Manager, it's called. Oh yeah, so here, so you can there's spacings built into this dialog for your benefit. So you know exactly what padding you have above and below and around objects in this dialog. It's part of the design language to help you build out your own dialogues. So if I toggle the spacing in the selected page, you will see all the spacers are in here. And the beauty of this is that you can actually, they're color coded. So we're based on a 4/8 pixel grid system. So you can see like 24 is this kind of greeny color. So I can see if it's 24 below the heading and 24 below all the content on the page, I see this is correct. So I have two in place here. But if this was a different color, like say, I think the 16 is a pink color maybe. Over my right-hand side in my options, I can change that and swap it out. So I have a 16 as well. Yeah, so the 16 is that pinky color. So no, that's wrong. But the beauty thing of the auto layout is that you can select any of these paddings. If I was to duplicate, say, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, that looks incorrect. It should only be 16 between these two, 16 between these two here. Take one of them out. You can just easily, because it's not a layout, you just duplicate the object. So I can go duplicate, select the actual spacer as well, duplicate that, drag it between, duplicate it again, drag it between. So it saves you going into the auto layout properties in the left-hand panel. These are just all objects in an auto layout. You can easily push your paddings around. So this is the concept of auto layout. And you have access to these, excuse me, these auto layout objects, wherever you see that this explore our UI patterns within the assets panel. That gives you access to UI patterns for that particular component object. I also want to demonstrate how you know what color styles, because every single component in here pulls in color styles from the token library. So you simply just, any objects that you have on your screen, you can select. And if I drag in some buttons here, for example, see some buttons in this project. We have our radio buttons maybe. So you select any objects in your file, you'll see on the right-hand side, there's a selection colors. You can expand it to see all colors. So I can see in this case that there is almost all of the colors except for one is linked to a token. So I can see what the token names are here. So if you want to see what the most common color is used, I can see that base dark is used quite often, and base carbon. So base dark, base carbon, base light, you'll see used often. Or if I want to see like what is the button color, it's base dark. And what is the text color? It's base light. And you can target those colors as well. So in that case, I can target exactly where is base light used. So I selected the text by just simply clicking on the target symbol right beside the color in the right-hand panel, if you can see that. Okay, so we're nearly at time. We are at time. So there's we're working on a new sprint. There's new upcoming editions for this month. We will have, if I just put it up here. So we'll be adding in this sprint, we're going to be adding links, alerts, progress indicators, input switches, tags, slider. And we also will be working on, I'm working on the categorization of the text styles as well. So that's it. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining in. So this will be the format going forward. Rosie will join the next few, and we will look forward to your feedback. That's the most important part.